Hey everyone, so I'm back with another video today actually, and so the premise of this video is just going to be me really reviewing the Arc Either rewards for all the arcs that I have. And if you don't know what that is, it's just the rewards you get from grinding the arcs to 100% Either. And I'm just basically giving my opinion on them and comparing them to other prominent Either rewards so that it might give you a bit better of an idea on which arc you want to grind to 100% Either first. Since I know that grinding an arc to 100% is a very long and arduous process, I thought that this would be a useful video to share. But I did want to present just a few caveats to the video before I get into it. Primarily, the first thing I'd like to mention is that I did record this video quite a while ago. It's actually from back when we were in the Secret of Mana event and we had the Half Orb event running as well. However, I didn't want to post it just because it was difficult to get out of my phone, as the video was 23 minutes long, so it did end up with a lot of discussion on my end about which arcs I thought were better than other arcs to grind to 100% Either. Now that that is out of the way, I also wanted to say that I did manage to watch the video again that I made, and just because it is a little dated, I wanted to review some of the information that I presented in it. I think all of my opinions on the arcs that I reviewed still hold, except for one that I mentioned, which is when I was going over the Vel d'Org arc and its Either reward. I originally said that this reward was just pretty much trash and it wasn't one that I would prioritize, but looking back on it, I think that that actually isn't very accurate. So the robe itself that you get from grinding the Vel d'Org arc to 100% Either doesn't offer any offensive stats. And so while originally that was a big downside for me, I think with tower content coming up, for the global server at some time between January and February, that has been announced, this Either reward will be pretty useful for tower content. So if you wanted to grind the Vel d'Org arc to get the MP regen passive, even though it doesn't have offensive stats, I still think that would be something worthwhile to do. In fact, I already started grinding that arc to get the reward since I released the video. So I did definitely want to make a correction on that just to make sure that I'm providing everyone that I can with the best information. Other than that, I just want to say that the video, of course, is only me reviewing arcs that I have. So if I don't have an arc, then I obviously just don't go over it or don't talk about it. Except for, I think I do mention March of Saints in the end, which I still don't have, but the Either reward from it is very prominent, so I just wanted to include it in the video. So yeah, the video is basically just therefore a review of all the arcs that I have and their corresponding Either rewards, what I think of them, and how I would go about prioritizing them. So if you think that would be something interesting to you, then I mean, please keep watching the video, because that is what the video is about. So yeah, as always, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. So I wanted to make another video today that's supposed to act partially as a sequel to the previous video that I released. And that video was, for anyone who hasn't seen it, a beginner's guide to how to grind Either. So after you watch that video, or maybe you already knew and didn't need to watch it, you should have a basic idea on how to grind Either and the reasons why it's a good thing to start doing when you're ready to start grinding Either and at that spot in the game. But you still might be wondering which are some of the best arcs to grind Either. For instance, which are some of the first ones you should start out on, because the rewards that they give at 100% are very beneficial, as opposed to some other arcs which offer good rewards at 100% Either but aren't necessarily game changing. And of course, there are also some arcs, guys, that don't really offer that great of rewards at all. But I don't really see a huge point in touching on those, though I will talk about a few of them just for the sake of having it in the back of your mind. So to start out, the first two arcs that I recommend everyone start grinding Either for, if they do have them, assuming that you are still a player who is relatively early into the game, are the Radmoon Ruins arc, and the Shrine of Heresy arc. Obviously, the Radmoon Ruins arc, being an R arc, means that you can more easily get dupes of it than SR or SSR arcs, and it means that it's easier to get dupes of than Shrine of Heresy, which is an SR arc. However, the benefits of getting the 100% either reward for this arc, which is the Radmoon Stone, for all who don't know, are quite noteworthy. Basically, if you want to instantly cast T3 spells, which greatly increase your potential on what stages you can farm and increase your farming speed for those stages, you need both the Cultist Pendant, which is the 100% either reward from the Shrine of Heresy, and the Radmoon Stone, which is the 100% either reward from Radmoon Ruins. And ideally, you'll want to equip both of these to your primary caster, or just whichever caster you're using to farm. As you can see, I have them both equipped on Lila for an added cast speed boost of 50%, and that's a reduction, but combined with high level magic cast or high level magic chant, however you say it, combined with that, basically it will allow you to instantly cast T3 spells, which is a huge boost to farming. But those are a lot more those arcs are a lot more geared rather to those who are using a mage to start out, to clear the early levels in story, and eventually to farm stages like Gragia Mountains Downward Slope and Elvira Ice Caverns Dependable Maiden, which most players do for at least some amount of time. And personally, I kind of enjoy playing mages in this game, so naturally those were two of the arcs that I gravitated towards wanting to grind their either first. However, if you are someone who favors using physical DPS units, maybe you might not prioritize those two as highly, but I still really would recommend that you grind them at a high priority, just because for purely farming purposes, really. But after you grind those two, let's talk about some arcs that would be really good to have at 100% either if your main interest is building a physical DPS unit. Primarily, the first one that I'm going to mention is the Divine Beast Hunter arc, which I can't actually show the accessory from this screen since I haven't grinded it to 100% ether. And that's the Sword of Kusanagi, which I believe gives the highest strength bonus save for the Sword of Mana arc either reward of any sword in the game currently. Though, as you can notice, it doesn't have a passive, so it's really just a stat stick. Though it doesn't really make it any less good because the boost of between 40 to 20 strength compared to a lesser weapon is still very noteworthy. So that's one arc that you would start wanting to grind if you were a physical DPS unit. Another one I'd like to mention, especially if you're using Sevia for a physical DPS, is the Treasure Sword of Elude arc, which you can see I'm in the process of grinding right now. The reward, the Treasure Sword Elude, is a sword that has a passive that has a chance to penetrate the enemy's defense by 25%, which is pretty significant. It does change the attribute to ice, though, which isn't totally a good thing in my opinion, and 130 strength is pretty good. So that's another one, especially if you have Sevia, that I would highly recommend. In addition, something to note is that if you're going to level an arc to 10, because you want its, and you also want its ether reward, you obviously want to level the arc to 100% ether before you level it to 10, because if you don't, you'll be spending a lot more orbs in the process of grinding the ether. Sometimes, however, this really just isn't feasible. And an example is, the Sorcerer's Eden reward, the Sorcerer's Ring, isn't really that good, but if you did really want it, I would say, that's one of the first arcs that anyone levels to 10 if they're choosing to main a caster because of its magic up max and fast aura. skills that it teaches, but it's really just not feasible to imagine grinding that to 100% either before you level it to 10, because most people just aren't going to be able to do that and need the passives first for some faster farming and faster clearing earlier on in the game. So some other arcs that I would like to mention, because this is really just a video on some of the best arcs to grind for either. Let's just start from the bottom here. Okay, so Secret of Mana, if you did happen to get this arc, it does offer a really good sword. It's actually slightly better than the Kusanagi sword, because it has a passive, even though it only works on god type boss monsters, but still 30% damage is quite nice. And it also offers HP, so that's obviously a really good one that you would want to go for. Additionally, I think this Vel the Org one you can definitely skip, because if you look at it, is actually just a robe that it does have continuous MP regen, which is nice, but it gives no offensive stats, which is that's a pretty big drawback, at least for me, because you'd have to sacrifice a decent amount of int. We're talking at least 100 minimum to wear that for the MP regen, but could be feasible on some builds. The Sandworm arc has a very interesting 100% either reward called the Crown of the Sun, which gives plus 40 to all stats besides strength, and that's pretty much all it really does. So it's interesting because for most casters, like I said earlier in the video, you're going to be using the Cultist Pendant from Shrine of Heresy and the Radmann Stone from Radmann Ruins. So you don't really have room to wear this accessory, which would offer 40 int and 40 MP, and that is pretty good. And then in terms of using it for a physical DPS, I would say that it's also outclassed. Because even though it offers 40 to all other stats, it doesn't offer any boost to strength, which is kind of interesting. I don't really know what they were thinking when they were making this one. Maybe it'll be used sometime in the future. I mean, it's still a good accessory to have, but I would just, if I had all the accessories available to me, this isn't one that I would slot on like my top units or anything like that. The Golem Core arc is a defensive arc, and thus it also offers a defensive either reward, which is a shield with really good stats, 55 to defense and mine, and it decreases the damage you receive even further when you guard. So the problem is no one is really building tanks right now, so this isn't really a priority for anyone, but it would be a really good reward if you're building a tank. The Heaven's Bow Starlord one, I honestly forget, so let's just take a look. Yeah, okay, I definitely wouldn't prioritize this at all, because there aren't physical DPS units now that use a bow that have earth or light skills. So yeah, I just wouldn't bother. But that's my opinion on that. Would not bother with that reward. All right, so let's move on now to Skyship 1. This is kind of a gimmicky one, if I remember right. Yeah, so it is a machine, so make sure that your physical DPS can use machine before you wear this. And the passive is kind of good. When you're attacking an enemy, when you're attacking a attribute the enemy is weak against, it increases the damage by 10%. But really, like, this is just kind of odd, though, in my opinion, because it offers nothing to int, so it's automatically useless for casters, and then it offers 20 MP and 150 strength around. So it's like, I just don't really know where you would want to use this over something else, in my opinion. And you also can't really use it for Randy, since it's not a sword, and it also, I guess it is attributeless, but as far as I'm concerned, nothing is actually weak to no attribute, so it also wouldn't help him in that way, as you can see. Okay, so I already went over Divine Beast Hunter. I'll go over some of these SR ones as well. The Flaming Hero reward is really bad. I wouldn't prioritize it at all. It's just an armor that gives a lot of defense, and I mean, just who really cares, honestly? For content right now, it's just not one that you ever need. Now, the Archangel Smile Ether reward is going to be the best ones, one of the best ones when Arena releases, because as you can see, it will give you a 10% boost in your SCT speed, which means you'll get to use your skills before the enemy AI team gets to use theirs. And then also after defeating a wave, recover some SCT, so it's kind of like a mini little pirate feast thing going on, which isn't really that useful for PvP at all. Actually, it's not useful for PvP at all, but I guess it would be marginally useful for farming, but definitely one I would recommend doing Unfortunately, I leveled this to 4 to get light boost, which I mean was still a smart thing to do, but obviously makes it a little bit harder to grind either, which is actually why I'm grinding it now on this half orb event. This one, I honestly don't even know. Purple Eye, no, that's trash, guys. I'm sorry, that's trash. When your HP is 30% or less, you get a 20% boost to end in mine. I mean, I guess it would stack with a backfire, but just why? It has to take up an accessory slot. I would not use that. This one is pretty good just because it's balanced. Like it just gives 35 to everything and that's it. But I still think there's better accessories you can use. But it definitely would be good to put on one of like your secondary units to give them something. But I wouldn't really prioritize getting that to 100% first because this is the best arc to learn high level magic cast from, which is really important for casters for instacast T3. All right, now some of these ones I just don't know. I'm not even going to go over the next 3 because I just don't think they're super useful. I've never heard of anyone using those. Just to save some time. The Cavern Air one, I think this is important. This one is going to be really helpful for tower because you're really pressed for MP in tower, and it will restore an additional 10% HP and MP at the end of the wave. And plus the skills on this arc are not very useful. Save triple impact, but like, I don't know. I would try to get the arc to 100% either before getting triple impact, but that's just me. That's my recommendation personally. This one, I don't remember what this one does actually. Boost movement speed? No, who cares? No, I don't care about that. And plus, this arc will eventually be used for auto haste for arena, so you'll probably level up to 10 before you get that anyway. Now, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on this Bloody Moon one. It sounds really good on paper. Regular attacks have a chance to absorb HP, but I've heard in actuality it doesn't happen that often because it doesn't proc on impacts. So it only procs on the actual attack, and so this one really isn't going to be used over other ones, so I personally would not go for it. Okay, Grave of the Blade Master, definitely an arc I'm going to be leveling because it will gain a 25% light magic damage boost and it's passive, and the arc 100% either reward is also pretty good too, especially for fighting the archdemons in Blue Nightmare Dungeon, because it will change your auto attacks to light attribute, which they're weak against, and it also increases the critical rate against undead by 5%, but that's not really that strong of a passive, to be honest. But still, definitely one that I would consider going for if you're looking for another weapon for a sword wielding physical DPS. Giant Tree. This is the Regen Ring, right? So yeah, this one is pretty good. Regen is pretty powerful in this game, which is kind of funny because if you've ever played any other games like Dark Souls, where like the Life Ring or the Regen Rings were just totally fucking terrible, that actually isn't the case in this game, because it regens by tick and you do get a sizable amount of HP for this. Think like how Conversation works or whatever. And that one is pretty good. I wouldn't really like prioritize it necessarily right now, but definitely keep your Giant Tree lower levels, or level it to 100% first, in my opinion, because the only real useful thing on this that you can't get from somewhere else is the staff equip, and really I can only really see that right now for Dark Melza, but kind of sucks for her. She's gonna have to wait a while to get that, at least from me. So obviously these are arcs that I've have a higher percent either, and a lot of these are just from polls, but like some of them I have definitely ground a decent percent on, like the God of the Dead, the Guy's Training Mountain from training it, the Flower, but basically all of these I didn't really grind at all. I did grind White Laboratory for a little bit because it does give an Ethereum 100% for an Arc Fragment reward. But to continue, this one is a pretty good either reward for physical DPS. It gives the highest strength of anything right now, but it is, again, just a stat stick like the Kusanagi sword. And it's also an axe, which most physical units right now in the game don't actually have the ability to wield. But it would be really good on Dark Melza. It does change your attribute to Dark, though, for the autos, which isn't really a great thing. Oh, I have like oh, fuck, it went away. Let me get this. Dark Melza Souls? Oh, really? Ancient Alchemy. Alright. Not like I really need one of those, but whatever. Yeah, so to continue, this is in the same case as Sorcerer's Eden. I'm not really going to talk about this very much. It does like boost your damage by 25% if you're using like a full SCT skill. But it's decent, but also kind of not practical to get it to 100% before you grind it, since the skills it has are very useful for physical DPS. Yeah, to continue, I'm not going to talk about Aurora Glacier because this is just a key item, so not useful. God of Storms, no, sorry guys, God of Storms. This one would be really good for Ray, but the problem is no one really builds Ray, and there isn't really any other Thunder units in the game right now. But as you can see, it's kind of self-explanatory why it would be good. This one is not one I would prioritize, and plus learning Moonlight is much more beneficial than grinding for this Ether reward, which only helps you recover from status ailments, which aren't a big thing in this game yet. This one, let's see what it does. Yeah, we already have free accessories to do this, so definitely wouldn't prioritize that at all. Oh, this one is really good, especially for female characters for Sevia. It basically gives a regen for free, although it doesn't give any good stats, which kind of sucks. 30 mind isn't very good, but I would definitely still consider using it just for the regen, because as I said earlier, regen is really powerful in this game. Yeah, this arc, I don't know what this does. I'm just gonna be honest. I haven't seen anyone use it or talk about it though in the Discord, so I don't think you're missing out on very much. I don't know what an inedible enemy is, because that's really just been ambiguous. Even with the release of Poi Poi, like she's apparently an edible or tasty enemy for her is a god. And beasts and plant obviously makes sense, but then like machines doesn't make any sense if that's edible. So yeah, don't really know. Yeah, this sucks. Don't bother. It's terrible. What's the point? There aren't even many hard plant enemies in the game. This also isn't useful. Something to do with status ailments. Yep, not useful. Wouldn't go for it. This is another key item. I'll show you a picture of it, but you can get these in story and they do the same thing. Although they do combine, I still wouldn't bother. What's really the point, right? Yeah, sorry, we already looked at that one. White Laboratory is useful because it gives an Arc Ether Fragment or it gives an Ethereon at 100% as an Ether Fragment. Yeah, I just don't get the point of this, guys. I'm sorry if you wanted to grind for this, but I really just don't see why you would use that. It gives no int and no MP. So yeah, I wouldn't go for that at all. This one will give you access to a shop that gives some pretty decent rewards, but none of them are as good as the Ether rewards. And I just wouldn't really prioritize that either. This one I already talked about. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a really good one, though. I definitely consider grinding that. This one, Sand Tower Mirage. I'm guessing that chance is really low. And it only gives defense, so probably I would not prioritize that personally. Okay. This one, okay, well, it gives a little bit of int, resistance to illness, which is really weird, but it would save you 6 SC for the free fire crit, so definitely you could consider that if building a fire mage that doesn't know fire crit innately, like Dine. Like, I'm not sure if Elisa knows it, but maybe she does. This one is just like a sword. Oh, I can't show it to you because I already have it. It's just a sword that gives 98 strength and increases the damage dealt to fish. So nice to have for a secondary character, but not a great item. This is a key item. It's totally useless. This is a armor that gives like 100 defense and 100 mind. So definitely a really good armor for units that aren't using dual wield, like a physical unit. This one, I honestly don't even remember what this is. So why don't we go look at my units and see. Yeah, I don't think it's any of that. Yeah, I don't know what that is. This House of the Witch, though, is really bad. I would never grind that. It has a passive where you instantly get killed if you get silenced or cursed. So just really kind of a meme there. Like, what is the point of that? Already talked about Radmann, Crystal Castle, also bad. Thunderstone Luster is pretty decent. It gives a I'll show you it's on my Dyne. It gives this. So 15% thunder magic damage is quite nice, and 27 is a little low, but whatever. Okay, Thunder Cloud gives a defensive item that gives like 25 to both mind and defense, and reduces damage dealt on you by dragons. So very nichely useful, since Vazards are the only dragons in the game right now. And then these are Shrine of Heresy, already covered. Dragon Treasure Rhinicle. Oh man, I have a love-hate relationship with this arc. I don't, obviously it's a terrible arc. The skills are terrible. I'll show you the arc Ether reward actually. It's on my Sevia. It's a pretty decent Ether reward, but I'm going to be honest, the only reason why I grinded that to 100% is because I had it at 55% from dupes already. So I wish I would have got another SSR instead, but this is a pretty decent Ether reward. I would prefer it over the Sandworm one simply because it gives strength and it's a physical DPS reward. And the resistances are like pretty nice, as well as the 200 HP, not bad. All right, so that basically covers it. I went over all the arcs that I have. Finally, I'd like to mention some arcs that I don't have, which mainly being the March of Saints, which is a really good staff to get if you like mages, but I don't have that arc, so obviously I can't grind it. It gives 200 flat intelligence, the March of Saints arc, and it allows healing magic to crit as well, which is really, really good. And I'm pretty sure that's it for the arc ethers. So yeah, that was basically, I basically just went over all the arcs that have good ether rewards that you should consider doing, and my opinions on those. So I hope this was a helpful video for you, especially if you've watched my previous one on how to ether grind, so you could get a better idea on which arcs you should actually start ether grinding. As always, hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.